In the first game, the Illini played post Kylan Boswell injury. What we learned is they're still pretty good.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Locked On Illini. Thank y'all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Sports Network the #1 sports network in the world. My name is Sonny Verma, your host here at Locked On, where I continue to provide you coverage daily. That's right, every single day, sometimes twice a day, especially when we get to do these post-game lives immediately after the game. This is a game that a lot of us were very keen on watching. Let's be honest, if we hadn't gotten the news a couple days ago about Kylan Boswell not playing, there's a certain percentage of you who probably would have skipped watching tonight. And you know what? I wouldn't have blamed you, because one thing you can kind of see very clearly is that Maryland is not very good. They were 1-6 coming into the game in the Big Ten Conference, and you clearly saw why. Buzz Williams certainly has some work to do with that program, but all the reasons you didn't have to watch that game changed once Brad Underwood announced that Kylan Boswell fractured his hand and that he was going to be out for a while. And so a lot of us had a lot of interest in this game to see how Illinois would react without their veteran, without their captain, without one of their best players. And we would see how Brad Underwood would game plan and what changes he would make on this basketball team to adjust with Kylan out. Well, we saw essentially nothing. The game plan today was simply, hey, guys, go out there and make all your three-point shots. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I did want to, let's just start off with the conversation with, we weren't sure who was going to be in the starting lineup. There was talks about Mihaela Petrovic being in the starting lineup. There was talk about maybe Jake Davis, maybe Ben Humrickhouse. And it looks like Brad Underwood went with what I think was the right choice in going with Jake Davis. And Jake certainly showed out and made Brad look really good with that. Now, I will say, I think Jeremy Warner posted that Jake made 58 straight three-point shots during practice today. So I don't know if this was a last minute or Jake's feeling it, put him in the starting lineup. But whatever it was, it worked. And I think Jake being in the starting lineup just makes so much sense. He doesn't disrupt what this offense is doing. I mean, in some ways, it might get better. If you're really talking about efficiency, when you're just talking about guys who can make their open shots, Kylan Boswell does a lot of things well, and he's going to be sorely missed. But he's not the shooter that Jake is. And this team has, in their starting lineup of 5, they've got 4 really good scorers. And Jake Davis being the 5th one, I don't think really changes much. And let's just give him a shout out. In 24 minutes, Jake Davis had 12 points, 4 of 6 from the field. Yes, 4 of 6 from the field, all 4 being three-point baskets. I think I'll talk about more of that in the second segment, though, about what we learned from Brad Underwood about how he's going to move forward post Kylan Boswell, at least during this month stretch. Hopefully it's just a month stretch. Oh, by the way, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you're here for the very first time. My name is Sonny, and I do these shows each and every day. Okay, so the start of the show, I think, was clear. It's Andrej Stojaković. Now, I got on here after the last game during the post-game live, and I talked about how, Andrej did not have a very good game. I think he had like 8 points or something along those lines. But I talked about how he's such a luxury to have, because this team is so deep that you can have a guy who scored 18 points per game in the ACC last year, and he can come in, have a lackluster game, and you don't feel a thing. It doesn't even matter. But I said, it's nice to know that there's some games that he can essentially win all by himself. Now, granted, I don't think we needed Stoyakovich to beat Maryland. We could have probably been minus our 2 or 3 best players to beat this really bad Terrapins team. But Andrej Stojaković showed out. And I'm not even going to start with the offense, guys, because you can look at the box score for the offense. If you wanted to see the impact that Andrej Stojaković had in this basketball game, at least the part that mattered the most to me, and I think to the team moving forward, is the defense he played today. David Coit, a guy who scored over 70 points in the last couple Big Ten games, today was held to just 15 on 5 of 15 shooting. He shot 1 for 8 from 3-point land. This man was in a blender anytime Andrej Stojaković was around him. And that's what makes Andrej's offensive explosion, which I guess, okay, let's just mention it. In 33 minutes, Andrej had 30 points, 9 of 18 from the field, 4 of 7 from the field, hit all 8 of his free throws. Oh, and he also had 9 rebounds. What a game by Andrej Stojaković. But again, I don't want the focus to be there because it's the defensive end where I think if we get that sort of performance on Saturday, we all know, look, Maryland, it was kind of a cakewalk. It was 47-30 at halftime. At no point was I really nervous about winning that game. Even 10 minutes in, Maryland was, I don't know if they were tied or if they were up 1. But, you know, even at that point, I wasn't nervous because they're making some really tough mid-range shots. I'm like, that's not going to last all game long. Illinois went on a 20-2 run. Halftime, again, 47-30. But the game that you had today, you're not going to be able to pull off against Purdue on Saturday. Purdue, I don't need to tell you guys about the Boilermakers. Talking about one of the national champion favorites coming into the season. They were the dominant favorite to win the Big Ten Conference. And now they're going to be pissed off because they just lost to UCLA the day before. And so you're going to have a pissed off Purdue team in a rivalry type of setting, right? They'll never admit it. They'll never acknowledge it. But that Mackey Arena gets a little extra louder when the orange and blue come in. And you're not going to have your captain there. The guy who, in that sort of environment, who I trusted to calm the team down. But the other guy, the other veteran, Andrej Stojaković, Kylan's best buddy, showed up today. And if he can do 80% of the performance he had on defense today against a guy like Braden Smith or whoever they decide to stick him with, I think for me it makes sense to do Andrej Stojaković on Braden. But I'm going to do my Purdue preview episode tomorrow. We'll see what happens then after I watch a little more tape. Then I think all of a sudden Illinois can still somehow pull off that upset on Saturday. The Talk Illini Discord, the link should be in the description, got mad at me because I think late last night I said, well, I don't really give us much of a chance to beat Purdue with Kylan gone. And I'm not saying we should be favored. I'm not saying I even remotely feel confident, but it's going to be a game. Again, I don't want it to be a false confidence because this was Maryland today. And quite honestly, you know, your second team could have competed against the Terrapins. But if Illinois shoots the way they shot today, which, by the way, 15 of 40 for 37.5% from three-point land. For the game, they shot 27 for 62 for 43.5% from the field. And I believe those averages even went down late in the second half with some of the lineups that we were playing. But if this team shoots the way it did and Andrej can lock up Braden, he's not going to lock up Braden. Braden, there's an argument that he's the best player in college basketball. But he doesn't let Braden be full, college basketball player of the year potential, Braden. Well, then this team absolutely has a shot. And maybe that, the no chance that I'm giving them without Kylan, well, maybe I'm being silly with that idea. But what I really want to talk about, and I know what you guys really want to talk about, is what we learned about what this game plan is going to look like without Kylan. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150, all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. All right, so Kylan Boswell's out. So who's in? Is it Mahalo? Is it Brandon Lee? What happens? Nothing happens. We saw Mihailo Petrovic today for about, 4 minutes? Let me get the actual official box score. Yeah, he played 4 minutes at the end of the first half. In a weirdo lineup, you learn nothing about Mihailo today. He did, unfortunately, miss another layup. He had some nice passes there, and he's definitely getting better at running around screens. Again, that's all I have, right? I wish I had more tape to watch of Mihailo to decide whether he had a good game or not, but you didn't see anything. One of the things I was kind of sort of predicting could happen seems to be what maybe Brad is going to end up doing. It's just playing your really good basketball players, right? You have the number one offensive team in the country as of last night. When Purdue lost that game last night, they dropped down to number 2, and as of this recording, at least right before I jumped on, they dropped down to number 3. Illinois still, at the conclusion of this game, has the number one offense according to Ken Pop. So why change anything? I think that's where Brad Underwood is going with this. Mihailo Petrovic, again, 4 minutes. Brandon Lee got a couple minutes at the end of the game, did make 3 out of 4 free throws, finished with 3 points. He had a foul. You really didn't learn much about the back guard situation, which makes you feel good and it makes you feel bad. I'll say that's not the right word. Nervous, right? The nervous part clearly comes from what happens if Keaton gets into foul trouble. What's the game plan there? Because even today, Keaton played 32 minutes, and I honestly felt like more than that. 32 minutes, Keaton had 13 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists. He was flirting with a triple-double, at least early in that second half. You almost thought he could get it. But again, it's a quiet game. This freshman, 200-rated freshman, just put up 13, 8, and 7, and he had a quiet game. He couldn't make a three-pointer today, right? Yeah, 1 for 9 from three-point land. I mean, if you take Keaton's three-pointers out, this team is 14 for 31, almost 50%. But regardless, that's besides the point. Keaton, he can have off-game shootings. It doesn't really matter. You learned very little about the backup point guard situation, but you did see that you're going to run the offense more through David Mirkovic. In particular, David, I think, had a very underrated game. 32 minutes today, 15 points, 9 rebounds, shot 5 of 12, 2 of 7 from three-point land. But you can see he is the other playmaker that you have. If you need a bucket, you give it to Andrej Stojaković, who I think they're going to focus more on at this point. But when you talk about how the team minutes are going to be configured for post Kylan, I don't think anything changes. Outside, Jake Davis playing more minutes. Jake Davis played 24 minutes today. Ben Hummerkaus played 22 minutes today. Other than that, David played 32. Andrej played 33. Tommy played 30. Jake Davis, as I mentioned, 24. Keaton Wagler, 32. Big Z only played 9, but we know why. Because Big Z had a very not smart game today. Right? I think that's fair to say. He had a personal foul immediately, and then I'll follow that up with a flagrant, and then he got another flagrant later on in the game. He just got triggered. I think it's pretty clear to say. Maryland, I mean, they're an annoying team. You know, I say that. Look, if you're a Maryland fan tuning in, well, first off, I appreciate it, but your team's annoying. Very mouthy, very chippy, very physically. Again, it didn't matter today. Illinois won by 19 points, depending on which book you were using. They maybe covered the spread or they didn't. I had minus 19, so I got my money back. But Maryland's a very chippy team, and they try to get in a lot of their heads. I saw Merck get elbowed at least 3-4 times. Once it was actually called, but it didn't matter. You know, David was an offensive rebounding machine, which he always tends to be. I can see the game planning, at least the offense, when it needs to be run, is going to go through David more. David kind of has the role that Tommy had last year. And Tommy, you know, let's give him credit too. He had 5 points and 5 rebounds in that first half. In 30 minutes today, he had 9 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. We'll take that any day. Last game it was 10-7. Today it's 9-7. Give us 10-7, 9-7, and then combine that with the good Big Z performance, and Illinois is fine. We don't have much to worry about. And that's, 3 solid games in a row for Tommy now? The only difference with Tommy now, at least you guys let me know if you agree or not in the comment section. For me, I feel like Tommy's good when he doesn't have to think. I never had to worry about him last year, but this year, when he gets the ball in the high post, if he sees the guy cutting immediately and makes that throw, great, fantastic, and it almost always connects, and it's almost always an easy 2 points. But the minute that throw's not there, and he has to put the ball down and dribble and maybe tries to back down or try to figure out what he wants to do, it's like his brain starts racing. And that's when you see the turnovers and whatnot. But you know what? Again, 3 straight solid games in a row at this point. Hopefully he's turned things around, and just in time, because we're going to need Tomislav Ivicic. Coming into this season, it was Kylan and Tommy. Those two were the most vocal about it being their team. Well, Tommy's got to recognize now that Kylan's gone. So the on-the-court vocal leader has to be Tommy. And I know it's not his personality, but his team's going to need it. Keaton's not a vocal guy. Keaton leads by example, by his play. But we need the Tommy from last year, what was it, Indiana? Where he got into a little scruffle at the end of the game. That's what we need, because on Saturday, when you go into Purdue and Purdue goes on a 13-2 run, that place is going to be rocking. And someone's going to have to calm the guys down. Be like, hey, relax, we got this. Because again, even a 13-2 run is not going to kill this team. You blinked today and Illinois went on a 20-2 run. That's just what they're capable of doing. That's how good they are offensively. Again, I'll remind you, the number 1 offensive team in the country. Saturday is going to be the intimidating experience for a lot of these guys. You know, Keaton Wagler, we all talk about how he never seems nervous at all. Well, I mean, if there's an environment to feel a little nervous, it's going to be Mackey on Saturday. You're talking about the potential of winning a Big Ten conference, right? I know some of you did not like, and I apologize. I got a lot of messages about that rapid reaction where I talked about winning the Big Ten conference is now out the window with Kylan Boswell out. A lot of you guys didn't like that. A lot of you want the season to play out. And I respect that. That's awesome. Good. You're right. It's still my opinion. It's just going to be tough. But you know what? This team keeps proving me wrong. And if I'm sitting here after every single game saying, hey, they passed this test, they passed that test that they haven't passed in previous years, maybe this is just going to be the ultimate performance by an Illini basketball team. Maybe this is the team that we've been waiting. I mean, some of us 30 years, but even the last couple of years, even the Brad Underwood era, right? Even when we had number 1 seeds, there was always that one thing that we're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Maybe this year is not it. Maybe this year, this team, the team Brad has put together, has shown that it's going to overcome all that. But again, it's just frustrating. You didn't learn much about the guard situation because Purdue is going to attack Keaton. You know how I know that? Because I know to do that, and Matt Painter is like 100 million times smarter than I am. They're going to try to get Keaton out. They're going to try to get him into foul trouble, and they're going to match up who he's guarding and why. They're going to try to make Keaton run through screen after screen after screen. Why? To get him tired. Because if Keaton Wagler gets out of that game, what does Illinois do then? Who dribbles it up court? You didn't get a glimpse at all today. Is it going to be Mahalo? I don't think so. Is it going to be Brandon Lee? I doubt that even less. Or I doubt that even more. Whatever phrase. At least I haven't done a boxing reference today. But, the thing with Mahalo, and I think you saw a glimpse of it today. You guys know I'm a big Mahalo guy, right? I can't keep repeating myself there. But the offensive style just changes when he's in the game. First off, if he can't make a layup, then just sit down. All right. At some point, these layups need to start falling. They did the previous game, which was nice to see. He did have a layup attempt today. It did not go down. But him being ball dominant and not a respectable shooter, he missed his 3-pointer today. All of a sudden, the ball's not going to flow as well with Mahalo on the court. If he makes the layups, then all of a sudden, the defense is going to have to send a guy down to the rim. And then Mahalo, which if there's one skill he's shown to be a plus at, and there's not many so far this year, is he's got a good eye. He can set his teammates up. He did that last game against Minnesota, multiple times with Big Z. He did that today. Again, I assure you this. If you have the opportunity to rewatch this game, just watch Mihailo in the 4 minutes that he was on the court. He was doing a really decent job running through screens, which was his biggest flaw, at least in my opinion, early in the season. So I don't know if that's just hard work. I don't know if that's just a kid who finally gets it. I don't know what it is. But on the defensive side, he's improved from where he was at the beginning of the year. But ultimately, if he's not going to make his layups, it just simply doesn't matter because the defense is not going to respect him. And he had 4 minutes and he showed, I'm not even going to say he showed nothing, but nothing jumped out at you. And you almost question. Mihailo Petrovic was in the same time that Jason Jackson was in. The same time, who else was in that crazy lineup? You had Jake Davis, I think Andrej Stojaković, Ben Hummerkaus. It was just a wacky lineup. I don't know what the reasoning behind that lineup in particular was. Big Z was probably benched at that point because he had gotten his second flagrant and Tommy needed a breather. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, what are you going to learn about Mihailo if he's on the court with Jason Jackson? Right? If you have Mihailo on the court, you need shooters around him because that's what he does. He attacks the rim, and then you got 4 guys around him, and whichever man comes help, he dishes it to them and hopefully sets you up for a 3-point shot. But with Jason there, now you got 2 guys who can't shoot, and you just have Jason's guy who can easily cheat and put up some defense on Mihailo. So again, my overall point is you learn nothing today. Brandon Lee came in at the end of the game when you bring your C team. Right? The game was pretty much over at that point. At that point, you just asked the guys to keep the lead over 20. They did not get that job done. They ended up winning by 19. By the way, I know a lot of you, and I know this because I get these messages all the time in that Discord. You're saying, we're up 20 points and there's 8 minutes left. Let's bring the bench guys in. Brad's not going to do that, guys. Especially now, he's right. This team is fighting for a top 3 seed when it comes to the NCAA tournament. Things got a lot more difficult. Okay, the record is nice now, but they've taken care of the easy part of their schedule. By the way, bravo, 7-0. We talked about it. All winnable games after Nebraska. I got on here after the post-game live, and I talked about, hey, over under 1.5 losses. This team took care of business, and this is why you can't count this team out. Even with Kylan out, sure, you'd rather have Kylan in, but in a best-case scenario where Kylan is only out a month, maybe you can see other guys step up. I mean, Jake Davis, I'll mention again, 4 for 6 from three-point land. Can you imagine a confident Jake Davis who steps up into this role? Maybe, being named a starter right now gets him elevated confidence-wise come March. And then he can have this sort of performance. Jake Davis is making 4 3-pointers when this team already is as dangerous as it is. I mean, I keep saying this, right? The Sweet 16 has to be the expectation for this basketball team. But if we're being honest with each other, all of us in the trust tree, I'll whisper it, right? This team is capable of a lot more than the Sweet 16. All right, if you haven't already, let's hit that like button. Let me get to some of your comments before I get out of here. Tyler says this game spoke to how we have numerous ways to beat opponents. Big Z had 18 against Minnesota and today only had 1 point. Meanwhile, Andrej had 30 and the others dropped double digits too. Yeah, that's the thing about this team. An opposing defensive coordinator can't sleep when Illinois is going to be on the schedule. Last game, it was Big Z was your best player, and Andrej Stojaković was barely noticeable. 1 game later, literally 1 game later, Andrej Stojaković is the first Illini to score 30 points since Terrence Shannon Jr., and Big Z has a single point. And you know what? The next game, that could switch back up again. Well, I hope not. The next game's Purdue. I'm pretty sure we're going to need an above-average Andrej Stojaković game. But you guys get my point. You just never know who the hero is going to be any given day. Keaton's going to have a good game. And for the most part, now you can feel pretty confident that Mirk is going to flirt with a double-double. Again, 15-9 for Mirk today. Big shout out to him. But when it comes to your third star, it could be Z. It could be Andres. It could be Tommy. It could be Jake Davis. Rick says Andres had a great defensive game on top of his scoring. Exactly, Rick. I mean, that's the thing that has to be noticed. Look, I'm proud of you guys. Yeah, you guys noticed this too. SI Sportsman said the same thing. Andres had Diggy locked. William says, no doubt who the MVP is tonight. Absolutely. Andrej Stojaković gets an A+. Fantastic defensive effort. See, this is why I know the Locked On community's smarter than all the other communities. You guys saw the same thing I did. This was no hot take by me in that first segment. I came on here. I'm like, let's ignore the offense because I know everyone's going to want to talk about the offense. Let's talk about defense. You guys were 2 steps ahead. Shout out to all of you. William says Andres and Keaton play well together in the front court. I think I don't think there's a single guy Keaton can't play well with. He's such an unselfish player. He doesn't commit turnovers. His only weakness, and someone brought it up in the Discord, seems to be that, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is just a 2-game sample. But when in transition, does Keaton ever pass the ball? Just something to think about, because I saw that comment immediately before I started going live, and it's kind of been stuck in my brain. Ken says, Coach mentioned Davis first for his rebounding. No surprise. Then he went to Andres for defense. Jake Davis today had 4 rebounds in 24 minutes, 12 points, and 4 rebounds, 2 assists. Williams says, not sure if this is the latest, but Ken Pom is 8th overall, 1st in offense, and 21st in defense. That's what I saw as well, William. I don't know. I didn't see if it was 8th or 7th or whatnot, but Chuck says, I don't get Brad not highlighting Dre immediately post-game. The guy did about everything you could ask. I missed the post-game. I can't comment about that. Obviously, you guys know I go live immediately after the games. I don't even get to watch the post-game press conferences, all that fun stuff. I get to do that after I get off here. But, I mean, I don't know what the question was, right? Maybe the reporter didn't ask about Andrej Stojaković, or maybe Brad was trying to make a point. Again, I don't know what he discussed, so it's hard for me to really say anything behind that. Ralph says, we have to bench Tomislav. Ralph, how come? Were you not impressed with Tommy today? I thought Tommy did a really solid effort today. In 30 minutes, he had 9 points, shot 2 of 6 from three-point land, but 7 rebounds, 3 assists. I thought Tommy had a good game. You guys let me know if you guys agree or don't agree. All right. Chuck says, as much as Keaton has gotten kudos for making good decisions, going 1 for 9 from 3 suggests he probably should have taken it to the bucket and not kept chucking it up. I think that's popular for us to say about all the Illini, but Brad Underwood teaches. Brad Underwood teaches this. Tyler Underwood teaches this. If you have an open 3-point shot and you don't shoot, you're going to get benched. That's just how this offense is designed, and it's because it's designed that way that this is the number 1 offensive team in the country. Now, I mean, let's be honest. Keaton Wagler's not going to get benched, so I kind of get what you're saying. But, yeah. SI Sportsman says, although I still cringe every time Ben shoots the ball, it was nice to see some shots fall for him tonight. All right, so those of you guys not in the Discord watching me now, I proclaimed this around halftime. I think Ben is about to have a big breakout game very, very soon. I don't know if it's the 2 3-pointers he made in the second half today or if it's going to be the next game. The last handful of his 3-point shots have rattled in and out. And that, to me, at least from my experience, and yes, I've played a few levels below the Big Ten Conference. I don't need to hear that. But for me, it's like, it's close. The shot is close. And I think once you see a couple drop in, like Ben did today, he missed his first 2, but he made his last 2. So he finished 2 for 4. I think we're going to have a big Ben Hummerkaus game. At least, hopefully it'd be against Purdue. What a lift that would be. Kai says, Big Z, the enforcer, stand up to your teammates. I'll take that first flagrant all day. Yeah, but the second one was unnecessary. It's one of those where it's fine because you know you're going to beat Maryland. But don't be silly. Be mindful of the situation and your opponent. Don't let an opponent know that they can get in your head, right? Because Purdue and all our future opponents are going to watch this game and see that, hey, Big Z, he's a guy that can get rattled. So let's try to rattle him, because if you don't get him rattled, if he has a really good game, well, he can beat you just by himself. All right, I'm going to wrap this up right here. We're right at about 30 minutes. Appreciate each and every one of you. I'm going to have the Purdue preview out tomorrow at some point. Make sure you hit the like button on your way out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.